Hey guys, Scott Owens here from Mimosa Research. I have several alerts set up for gunbroker auctions, and occasionally I run across something that is interesting, and I wanted to share with you guys my process of evaluation for a M45A1 listing that came up that at first glance appears like it might be similar to a prototype that I showed you. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, it has a regular Colt railgun roll mark as opposed to something that you would typically see on an M45A1. Let's take a closer look at the pictures for this particular listing because I don't think it is what I initially thought it was. So as I go through the pictures here, I'm thinking several things. First off, skinny rail, original serrations, the skinny serrations that you would see on potentially an early prototype of an M45A1. But as we look at the pictures a little bit closer, first of all, it's in a Pelican case, which I'm not aware of any prototype that came in a Pelican case. If anything, it would have been probably in a craft box or may not have even been in a box at all. It has one of the more recent non-Colt marked Otis cleaning kits apparently. No test target or anything like that, at least not pictured here. I look at the side here and yeah, I do have a railgun serial number, which most of the prototypes did have railgun serial numbers, or at least serial numbers within that range. I am also noticing, we'll see clearer pictures of this a little bit later, but I do see the markings for the sights in the correct place, what I would expect to see. However, as I look at the grips down here, they are cut off as if they were configured for use with a flared base plate or an additional mainspring housing with a base plate on it. Haven't seen that on a prototype. Let's look at this a little bit closer. Nothing really new on this picture. Nothing new on this picture. I do see some of the later mags, at least displayed in this picture that I showed you, the stainless steel Colt mags. However, later we'll see a different mag, which is also interesting. Not much to see here other than to note it is the older type of rail. Again, older rail, nothing really to see here. This picture is a little bit interesting. It appears to me that these magazines are Cerakoted. So these look like original 8-round magazines, stainless steel magazines that have been Cerakoted FDE along with the gun. Well, that's odd. I do see that the serial has been applied before it was Cerakoted. Not necessarily concerned about that. I think that's like that on mine as well. I do see a little closer picture here. Yeah, this is what I would expect to see for an early Novak night sight. Now, absolutely nowhere inside the feed ramp here. Little bit of wear here on the back, but less than I would typically see. Nothing much to note here other than the 3-hole trigger. I don't think I've seen that. I've only seen solid triggers. Okay, hold on. Now this is something that's really interesting, and if you've seen some of my other videos, we will see that the stamping on the left rear of the trigger guard, first of all, is a number. What does that tell you? That tells you that it's a custom shop gun. What else am I seeing here? That number has not been stamped after the Cerakote. It was stamped before the Cerakote. So Cerakote has been applied over the stamp. All right, that to me is a huge red flag, because what I'm thinking happened here is that we have a gun that was probably originally a custom shop order that may have been ordered either with the FDE coating applied, or it was a custom shop gun that was Cerakoted after purchase. So the fact that the Cerakote is applied over the stamp tells me that the finish was applied after the custom shop smith inspected and fired the gun, because that's when it gets the stamp. So that to me is a huge red flag. I also have a checkered rear mainspring that does not look like any I've seen on an M45A1 or on a prototype. I also have Cerakote in parts that I wouldn't expect to see Cerakote. For example, on the retaining plate for the firing spring. '13. Okay, so we know that these night sights were produced in 2013, so that would be very early on. Actually, if this was a prototype, that night sight would have to be 12 or earlier. So again, this is not a prototype. This was made after prototypes were all said and done. So I can rule out definitively that this was a prototype. So what do we have on this? Also, I have a Cerakoted plug and a barrel bushing. I would not see that in a M45A1. Also, I don't know what's up with the front sight. Overhangs the front of the slide like that. Haven't seen that before. The case is older. It looks legit. Can't really comment about the contents of the cleaning kit. To be honest, I never really went super deep into the cleaning kit. Again, here I have a picture of the magazines that appear to be Cerakoted FDE with black followers, by the way. All right, so what is this gun? Again, two theories. Number one, it was either a rail gun that was ordered from the custom shop and then Cerakoted afterwards, FDE, or it is a railgun that was ordered from the custom shop in FDE. To me, I think the former is more likely, but I do see later date codes on the night sights, which tells me this was past the prototype period. And then additionally, I see pieces that were typically not Cerakoted that are Cerakoted, such as the firing pin stop, the barrel bushing, and the recoil spring plug. So given all of that, I think what we have here is something that it is not as first appeared. Also, I don't have a box. I don't have a label. I don't have a test target. It's these Pelican cases were sold individually by Colt at one point in time back in the day. So you could order them directly from Colt. They were, I don't know if they were $100 or a couple $100. To me, the cleaning kit looks later unless I'm just not seeing the side that has Colt marked on it. We know that this cleaning kit appeared in about 2020, right as the all stainless steel custom shop version was coming out. Most of those came without a Colt logo. Some of them did come with a Colt logo, but I think it's one of those things where they were running out of parts, and so they ordered a new batch. And I don't know if it was cheaper to get them without the Colt logo or what happened. But everything about this gun is telling me it is not a prototype. I think it's too late for a prototype. It is either a quote-unquote fantasy piece that somebody had coated with Cerakote after purchase, or it was ordered from the custom shop as a railgun with coating applied on it. But this picture with the gunsmith stamp coated over with Cerakote, to me, is the indication that this is probably done aftermarket. Okay, an additional thought. I don't necessarily know if this is a listing that was put together with the intent to deceive or not. Nothing about this claims that it's a prototype. If you look at the seller's description here, he does say This beautiful custom Colt picture has a very similar appearance to the CQB. It does not claim that it is a prototype or anything like that. If you have a fondness for military grade hardware, this is an opportunity at an affordable price. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't think that this is necessarily put together with the intent to deceive. It is interesting that he says it's a custom 2011 Colt government railgun. How did he come up with 2011 when we know that the dates on the night sights are 2013? Well, if you go to Colt's serial number, Lookup, put in the serial number, you'll see that it shows manufacture of 2011. Now, one other thing that I wanted to point out with these photos, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but if we go to the picture of the front night sight and how it kind of overhangs, we can see it a little bit here, but we see it even more in this photo. See how we have an overhang by that front night sight? If we look at the distance here between the front of the slide and where the dovetail cut ends, that is not very wide. I wanted to show a comparison shot of some regular Colt railgun roll mark M45A1s that have the later wider serrations. Notice that distance is set further back. So I think what happened is between the original railgun slide, which had the skinny serrations that are apparent on this gun, and the later changes made for the entire railgun line that conform with the M45A1 frame and serrations, it looks like they moved the dovetail cut back because there's much greater distance here between the dovetail cut and the front of the slide. So again, that to me is just further indication that this was probably maybe it went back to Colt specifically to have this work done. That's entirely possible. A guy could have said, hey, I had this custom shop you made for me a couple years ago. Can you make it look like an M45A1? And custom shop said, sure, happy to do that. I don't know, but this is certainly not a prototype. That much I do know. All right, so those are my thoughts. Just thought I'd share them with you as I roll through and look at my daily listings of M45s. Have a great one, and we'll see you next time.